Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous fanfiction and audio fiction. This one is a lyrical one-shot written by Jheqia, so I hope you enjoy it. Massive shout out to the artwork, the beautiful stunning artwork in the thumbnail by Peppermint Papers over on Tumblr. Her links will be down below in the description, so make sure you go and give her some love. And yeah, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below what you think of it. And I will speak to you soon. A new beginning. Enjoy! Adrien Du Pang Chang, 22 years old. It was the early morning sunlight filtering in through the gap in the hotel curtains that woke him. Adrien loved the sunshine, and he had always revelled in sunbeams as much as any cat. But this sunbeam was special. It shimmered through the dust motes in a stream of liquid gold to gild the face on the pillow beside him. Marinette, his lady, his princess, his bride. Part of him wondered when the illusion would fade or he would wake from this dream, because it still didn't feel real. Marinette had loved him on both sides of the mask far longer than he had ever guessed. Still seemed impossible. 4 years of confusion, hurt, feelings, pain and pining. 3 years of suffering after the eventual defeat of Hawkmoth and the emotional wreck Adrien had become when the truth came out. And through it all, Marinette had been there for him, as his partner, Ladybug, and as his friend, and eventually... Adrien shifted carefully on the bed to get a better look at her, not wanting to wake his ladylove. The sunlight picked out the blue tints in her raven hair and kissed her lips first on this first day that she was truly and completely his. Silly to be jealous of a sunbeam, he thought, but he was. He ached to take her in his arms and wake her with kisses, but what was this moment when they had the rest of their lives? Yes, he could spend the rest of his life working for her, for their happiness, for their future family, celebrating everything that she was and had given to him and him alone. Funny, he thought, twining a strand of silky hair around her finger. All these years, up at all hours fighting akumas and everything else, I've never seen her in the dawn light. Moonlight was their golden hour and had been ever since the time he had landed on her balcony, a lonely, heartbroken boy of 14, in search of friendship that she had given freely. Of course, I didn't know she was Ladybug, and she didn't know I was Adrien. He chuckled silently, amused after the fact by the tricks that fate had played on them in their path to finding each other. They had shared so many moonlight moments. Dancing in the moonlight in New York, him watching her run across a rooftop silhouette against the silver glow. The night she had held him and cried with him when his heart was breaking over the loss of his father to madness and crimes. The night he had learned exactly how much he loved Marinette, and the brilliant, shining night that she released her transformation and her guard telling him exactly how much she loved both sides of him. With a passion that still frightened him, he ran a feather-like caress along her cheek. How many times had he seen her blush? Hundreds? Thousands? Most were over him. Her blushes were his greatest treasure now, along with the blue scarf she had made him so long ago, and the rings that bound their hearts to each other for all time. Ah, Marinette, he thought, his heart full of this image of peace that lay beside him. I still hear your voice when you sleep next to me. I still feel your touch in my dreams. You are everything, and I will work for the rest of my life to be yours. I know you forgive me for my weakness, but I don't know why you would love me after everything we've been through. Without you, it's hard to survive what has happened, but you have been the one constant in my life that has steered me. Marinette, You are my lighthouse of my soul, my lady. Adrien brushed aside her bangs and pressed a tender kiss to the alabaster curve of her forehead. He longed for her to wake, to give him that special smile, which was only for him, and to kiss him senseless. But this love needed rest after the organized chaos of the week leading up to the wedding and the flight that left her completely jet-lagged. He slipped out of bed and went into the adjoining room, thankful Marinette had the foresight to book them into a small suite. Brewing a pot of coffee, he wandered around the room, taking in the generic art and plain furnishing. His father would never have been caught dead in a place like this. Not suitable for the agrests, he would have said, but Adrien wasn't aggressed anymore. Despite Marinette's protest, he had insisted on taking her name. He knew she wanted to take his name because it would show she was his, but he wanted nothing more to do with his father and that name or that life. Of course, Tom and Sabine had been ecstatic at having him join their family, at least a son by both name and marriage. They were the parents he had lost, and Marinette was his family, his home, his wife. His wife! He could barely suppress the giggle of joy that bubbled up in him at the very thought. For all that he had claimed for years that he and Ladybug were soulmates, it still seemed impossible that she would love him. Marinette's love had been what had seen him through the darkest days, even though he hadn't seen them. Oh, princess, your arms are my castle, and your heart is my sky, my sanctuary and my freedom, who wipe away tears that I cry and have for so long now, though the good and the bad times we've been through them all, the two of us against the world, my lady. Just as in every fight they had defended each other, she had defended him in so many ways, most of which he hadn't known about until recently. Like the time she confessed to borrowing the grimoire so that Adrien's father wouldn't pull him out of school, even though it had been Lila who had stolen it from his bag. How she had let him think that his father had given him the scarf for his 14th birthday, since his happiness was more important to her. Somehow, you'll always make me rise when I fall, Marinette. He sighed and poured himself a cup of coffee. Plag floated in with a yawn and a stretch, and Adrien got him some camembert out of the mini fridge for him. His Kwame scoffed it down and curled up on the top of the sofa next to his owner. Enough of the past. Today was a new beginning, his and Marinette's. He stared out the window, sipping his coffee, and listened attentively for any sound from the other room. Oh, how he wished he could wake her so he could pull her into his arms and never let her go. But he had waited for her. She for him for years. He had won her at last. He could afford to be patient. Finally, after what seemed eons, she stumbled into the living room, her hair in towels of curls around her shoulders and her bluebell eyes still drowsy. Adrien probably should have let her have her coffee in peace, but now that she was awake, patience had ceased to be a virtue. He came up behind her and wrapped himself around her as she stood at the small counter, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Good morning, my beautiful princess," he breathed as he kissed her neck right below her ear, making her shiver. Marinette snorted a laugh and took a sip of coffee. "No one aside from you, hot stuff, is beautiful this early in the morning after a wedding, a reception, and a 15.5-hour flight." "Mrs. Dupan Chang, I almost respectfully disagree," he murmured, pressing another kiss on her shoulder. "Did I mention that was another reason why I wanted to take your name? It makes me think you're talking to my mom." "Well, I love your mom, but..." He let the sentence die as he rubbed his cheek against her silky hair, knowing she knew what he meant. She stared at the reflection in the mirror over the counter, one hand coming up to caress his cheek. I know, my love, she said tentatively, for though the feelings were long established, the words were still new to her. Did I ruin some teenage dream by insisting? Only paper dreams, she said, leaning back into his embrace as her hand crept into his hair. You have no idea how many school notebooks had marionette grass filled the margins, but it doesn't matter anymore. I'll get used to it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me sleep. I know you needed it, but patience is hard for your poor cat, he purred into her ear, especially now that you're mine, Marionette. Those lovely roses bloomed across her cheeks at his tone. Setting down her cup, she turned to face him. Running her hands up his arms and into her hair sent a shiver of anticipation through him. I've waited so long to hear you say that, Adrien. I should have known it was you. But how? Her beautiful eyes gazed into his with so much love that it hurt. We were protecting our identities, and the odds of us actually knowing the other were pretty small. Though I wouldn't be surprised to learn that Master Fu knew we were going to end up together. I should have known that Marinette was my bugaboo, because every time we touch, I get this feeling of home, of fireworks, of happiness, even before I knew. I should have too. There were so many signs, and every time we kissed, even before I knew, I swear I could fly. Gripping his hair, she pulled him down into a kiss that sent a thunder through his veins, as if he was free-falling into the storm of her eyes. He pulled her hard against him, his hands tracing her shoulder blades through the satin of her nightgown. Was her ladybug luck rubbing off on him that he was this lucky? Or was he her lucky charm after all? They parted breathless, green shining into blue. She rested her head against his chest with a sigh that echoedly spoke of a hidden longing fulfilled. Can't you hear my heart beat fast? He whispered. She nodded and nuzzled against him. I just want to remember this moment. I want this to last forever. After everything we've been through, I need you by my side. Always, princess, as against the world. Not just that, my prince, she said, looking up at him with a positive look that tied his stomach into warm, delightful knots. 'Cause every time we touch, I feel this static. She ran a delicate finger along his jaw, leaving his skin tingling and a blush on his own rising to his cheeks. Adrien grabbed her hand, placing a kiss on the inside of her wrist, and then gently kissed her sky blue eyes. And every time we kiss, I reach for the sky. Her smile filled her face. She took his hand and placed it against her collarbone. Can't you feel my heartbeat so? He thrilled at the renewed knowledge that she desired him as much as he did her. Marry me, Marinette, he breathed. I already did, silly kitty, she giggled. Marry me every day, he said, holding her close. I want you in my life forever. I never want to lose this feeling of our new beginning. He bent to the sweetness of her lips, knowing her kisses were his to treasure and revel in. After several heated moments, they broke apart, grinning at each other like fools. So, Marinette said, her rosy lips in a teasing smirk, fruit or breakfast, and then hit the beach. He pouted for an instant before grinning at her reference to his silly teenage dreams that she had fulfilled and eclipsed entirely. It's still early. Does my princess not want breakfast in bed first? She blushed again, but tapped his nose. Her eyes sparkled in the morning light shining through the window. You're the one who wanted a honeymoon on a tropical island, he growled playfully and scooped her up in his arms. It's better than New York Fashion Week. I would have had to compete with Armani and Prada for your attention on our honeymoon. It's only because I wanted to dance in the moonlight with you again, she said, leaning in to kiss him. Marinette filled all the empty spaces that years of battle, losses, and neglect had made in his heart. She made him whole in a way that he didn't think he would ever fully understand, but he was going to spend the rest of his life finding out. Oh well, we'll dance, princess, all night if you wish, and the same moon shines here, but right now, he rested his forehead against hers and sighed in true happiness. I'm ready for a new beginning. Thank you for listening to this lyrical one-shot, A New Beginning, written by Jheqia. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think of it. It was a gift she gave to me, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.